Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe. He, of course, is Chris Fedor. We have a packed show for you today. Mary Kay Cabot will join us live from the Super Bowl here shortly. We'll also talk some Ohio State recruiting towards the end of the show with Bill Landis, and Joe Vardon will call in to talk Cavaliers. So let's get right to it. Joining us from San Francisco, the site of Super Bowl 50, Mary Kay Cabot. How are you today, Mary Kay?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well. And look, let's get right to it with Johnny Manziel. The Browns have basically put into motion that they're going to cut him in March when they have their first chance. Does it come as any surprise to you that they are this open about what they're going to do?
Not after what happened in Texas. Once that happened, actually, I really thought the end of the road for them came when he went out to Vegas after being diagnosed a couple days after. That really made the organization look bad. It called things into question. It was just not a good look for anybody involved. So I think at that point I felt he was gone. And I think that this incident in Texas really just confirmed for them that, that it's it. I mean, he cannot be their guy. They have to move on. They don't want to talk about it anymore. They're embarrassed by everything that's gone on. So, no, not really surprised.
Mary Kay, there's no chance that the Browns hang on to him and hope they can get something in a trade, right?
I really don't think so. I think they just want to be done. I don't think they want the negative headlines anymore. I just think that they're fed up, and they probably at this point don't think that the 6th or 7th round pick or whatever they would get for him would be worth just any more of the turmoil or anything like that. So, the only X factor here is that, what if Jerry Jones, does surprise everyone? So, that's the only thing to kind of keep an eye on at this point.
Mary Kay, let's look at a couple free agents for the Browns because we got to hear from Travis Benjamin this week. Look, all season long, he told us in the locker room, this deal is 75% done, 80% done, but we haven't really heard anything yet. Are they really close with Travis Benjamin?
Yesterday, and he said that they are close, and he is very optimistic that something can get done soon, and that's a good thing for the Browns. And he really wants to. So I think that free agents that are unsigned at this point, the guys that are set to become free on March 9th, he's the closest one. They haven't really extended an offer yet to Tayshaun Gibson or Mitchell Schwartz, but they are deep into the numbers stages with Travis Benjamin.
Mary Kay, how much does it help when it comes to Gibson that he was really, really excited about Ray Horton coming in as defensive coordinator, and Gibson had arguably his best season of his career under Ray Horton?
Yeah, that helps him when you have a defensive backs coach like that, a former defensive back, coming in, and somebody that is really going to want to have a Pro Bowl safety on his roster. I mean, you can't really, give up too many of those really good guys in the secondary at this point and expect to be any good back there. So I think that he will become a priority. I think it will help. I think it will help Tayshaun that Ray's around because I think he'll fight for him.
Mary Kay, let's talk about the Super Bowl. Who do you have on Sunday night?
You know what? I just keep coming back to Cam Newton. I mean, he's just, having such a tremendous season. He's got really good weapons. And, Peyton isn't, the Peyton of old. And I think that in a game like this, it's going to come down to quarterback play. And now they do have a good defense, obviously, the Broncos do. But I still think that Cam will pull it out in the end.
Mary Kay, being there at the heart of the Super Bowl, and obviously the Carolina Panthers, Denver Broncos, they've kind of built their teams in different kinds of ways. I'm sure you're talking to a number of people from around the NFL. Is the buzz still strong, you think, that the Browns go with quarterback at number 2 in the NFL draft, or has some of that died down now that you're out of Mobile?
Well, it's not as intense out here as it was in Mobile when you're, just staring at Carson Wentz for a few days and watching every move that he possibly makes. So there hasn't been as much of a buzz about that lately, but actually I only got here yesterday, so I will be trying to talk to many more people about, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz as I move through Radio Row and different things today and tomorrow.
All right, Mary Kay, last question. Let's go back to Johnny Manziel quickly. Assuming the Browns cut him in March, as you reported, what's next for Johnny?
Well, that Jerry Jones will take a chance on him. He will probably wait till he clears waivers. He'll probably also not trade for him. But once he becomes a free agent, I think that Jerry will try to talk his son, Steven, into signing him. People in the organization will try to talk him out of it, but he regretted it the first time around. This is his chance. Johnny wants to play there. He's showing up at Mavs games and things. I think Jerry Jones will take a chance on Johnny Manziel.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter, joining us from the site of Super Bowl 50. Mary Kay, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Jerry Jones and Johnny Manziel. It's sort of been, ever since they first initially passed on him, surprised a lot of people. That's sort of been, I guess, what it's been building to. I don't know if they would actually do that, though.
I just love how whenever it comes to, okay, can we get anything for this guy that we no longer want on our team? Let's see if Jerry's interested. Let's see if he's willing to give up a 6th-round pick or a 7th-round pick. He does some crazy things as owner of the Cowboys, and he does like selling jerseys and tickets.
That is true, and they could sell a lot of number two Cowboy jerseys behind Tony Romo. Look, I guess there's worse people to try and learn from, but I don't know if Johnny Manziel really wants to be taught.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, what evidence do you have of Johnny taking some of the knowledge that these guys are trying to instill in him and then putting that to use? Josh McCown was a terrific mentor, I think a lot of people would admit, for Johnny. Johnny had a great offensive coordinator in John DeFilippo. He had a great quarterbacks coach in Kevin O'Connell. Like, this was a situation that was set up for him to thrive. This was as good as a quarterback could ask for, with that offensive line in front of him, Gary Barnidge playing the way that he did. And yet, he couldn't keep his head on straight, and yet he couldn't understand the responsibilities that come with being a starting quarterback in the NFL. If he wasn't going to flourish here in this kind of situation, surrounded with that kind of stuff, I don't know where he can succeed in the NFL.
And an organization that wanted to hand him the job.
That's exactly right.
From day one.
They invested in him. They wanted him to be the guy. He just didn't want it enough.
All right, let's go ahead and switch gears and talk some Cavaliers basketball. We're bringing Joe Vardon joining us via phone. Joe, how are you?
What's up, guys?
Not too much. Joe, the Cavaliers lost last night. Dan Gilbert making up words. That's what it inspired. How much concern should there be over that one loss?
None. I mean, in this league, you know how it goes. There's just nights like that. They're obviously still trying to learn what they want to do with Ty. I think, you could say what they want to do under Ty probably actually isn't that much different than what David Blatt wanted to do. It's just obviously they're a lot more willing to do it for Ty. But then you get into these situations like they've been in the last 2 games where it's close in the second half and they revert to, hero ball or iso ball or whatever it is that you want to say. And that gets them into some trouble. The point that I would make is listening and reading over the comments from last night, I about fell out of my chair when Kyrie Irving basically admitted that he does this. You guys just got done talking about Johnny. I think, the first step on the road to recovery is admitting you have a problem. And Kyrie Irving, has done this. He's cited it. He needs to move the ball more late in games and trust his guys, which he doesn't do. So, they know they need to do it. They just have to trust the process. That doesn't happen overnight.
Joe, what did you make of Dan Gilbert's tweet after the game? Because this is a guy who's been really, really quiet all season long. He hasn't said anything on the record since Ty Lue was elevated to head coach, and then he takes a loss against Charlotte to make up a new phrase and send out a tweet for really the first time all season.
I mean, Chris, I don't want to make too much of this, but, I mean, we kind of have to look at that as though he was expressing some displeasure in this loss. It's either a game that he felt they shouldn't have lost, or he is pointing out that they're losing games the same way. I don't know that that's exactly fair. I think there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes and a lot of little differences between the way Ty Lue coaches and what David Blatt did, which add up to a huge difference. But as we said at the top, the problem is still the same. The ball's still sticking, and they're still playing slow, especially in second halves of games. And, Dan, who swallowed his pride and fired his guy as coach, did that with the understanding that some things would change. And so, I'm sure he expects in the near future for this to improve.
Joe, let's go back to Kyrie Irving. You mentioned what he said last night, but, in watching Kyrie Irving, obviously he's kind of getting that finishing touch back around the rim. We've seen the point totals go up, but the real concern is he's not shooting the ball particularly well from three-point range. Where do you think Kyrie Irving is right now, and do you think he can get that back before the end of the season?
Yeah, I do. I mean, just look at LeBron. LeBron was the worst shooter in the league outside of the paint as of, Christmas. And since then, he's been much better. I don't have the exact numbers since Christmas, but he's been much better. And the point is, shooting is something you can fix. He's going to get this right. I'm not worried about that. I want to quickly go back to Dan. Dan hasn't said anything, you're right, really on the record about firing Blatt. He did say right after the Detroit game, while kind of declining to comment further, he did say, obviously, we're happy. And at the time, the Cavs had won 4 in a row, I think. And then, of course, they smashed the Spurs and beat the Pacers for the first time in years on the road. So I don't think we can reasonably say that Dan is unhappy with what's going on here. It's just strange that he chose last night to make these comments, and he probably did notice that they lost this game the way they had lost previous ones under David.
And Joe, you had a piece for cleveland.com, a nice video about LeBron. I don't want to say declining, but I guess the window of opportunity maybe closing a little bit. Can you expand on that and what you've seen from LeBron this year and what you've seen from LeBron since Ty took over as head coach?
Right. I mean, Chris, we were children, and you even younger than me, when Bill Belichick said that Bernie Kosar had diminishing skills. And the word decline kind of has that same connotation. So when you use it, some people go insane.
Yes.
LeBron James is fine. LeBron James' statistics are beyond all-star worthy. They are among the best in the league. He remains one of the top players in this game. And what he did in the finals last year, and pretty much all of the playoffs, was as good as anything he has ever done. And the video and the accompanying story said all those things. So let's repeat that first of all. But irrefutably, now we are in a prolonged period of slightly reduced production from him. He doesn't shoot as well. He doesn't score as much. He's not as efficient. He turns the ball over more, and he's playing fewer minutes. Now, again, he's so good that the fact that all those things are true doesn't mean that there's any immediate concern. But what it does say, it just reinforces, is that he is not going to be the LeBron James we know forever. And the decline, if you will, is gradual, but it's kind of happening. And all that means is that the Cavs are not interested in waiting 4 years or 3 years to get this right. They need to win now. I mean, it's why they traded for Kevin Love, going all the way back to last year. And it's why they fired David Blatt, one of many reasons. And if they make another big move, which I'm not saying they will, but if they would do that this year, it would be for that very reason. They've got to win right now with the window open on LeBron James.
Joe, Ty, since taking over as head coach, he has tried to get the Cavs to play faster, maximize some of their talent out in transition. He's tried to get Kevin Love more comfortable, more involved in the offense. He's played him with the second unit so that the offense can funnel through him. What do you think is the next step for Ty as head coach? What do you think the next thing is that he's going to try and fix here?
Well, I mean, those were great things. You got to go back to what we were saying about there are differences, and that those are a couple. They always talked about playing fast. They always talked about moving the ball, but for the first time, we've got somebody who said, this is how we're going to do it. So I really like that. And obviously, the next thing is they have to fix this late in game offense. They have to get it out of Kyrie's head, and let's be honest, LeBron does it too. They have to get it out of their head about pounding the ball, because someone has missed a shot or two down the stretch. I mean, I was reading one of our colleagues' stuff this morning, and he was pointing out about the Cavs only ran 2 pick and rolls last night with Kyrie and LeBron in the fourth quarter. I mean, LeBron's saying that's one of their bread and butter plays. Okay, then they need to run that in the fourth quarter. I mean, LeBron's almost impossible to guard as the screener out of a pick and roll, especially when it's Kyrie Irving, who's the guy that they need to switch on to. So they've got to start running that play. They have to keep skipping the ball. They got to find Kevin. JR is deadly. You've got all these weapons when Belly's on the floor. He drills open shots. You just have to trust that rate. They just had a bad week with that. I'm not overly concerned, but that is the next thing they've got to fix.
All right, Joe Vardon joining us. Thanks for the time, Joe.
Yep.
All right, so the Cavaliers coming off a loss in Charlotte. They've got Boston coming up. All-Star Weekend coming up as well. Hey, who do you have in the dunk contest?
Oh, my goodness. Did you see that lineup? Like, those guys. Man, I remember when the dunk contest was these great players. Kobe.
Yep.
Remember 1997? It was here. It was here in Cleveland for Kobe.
Somehow you beat Bob Sura. I don't know how he managed.
Now you've got Zach LaVine. You've got Andre Drummond, Aaron Gordon. Like, that's what you've got for the dunk contest? Come on.
Andre Drummond is the one that kind of, made me stop and say, really, a big man?
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he's going to raise the hoop to 14 feet, like Dwight raised the hoop or something like that. I don't know. It just seems so strange, unfortunately.
Could be. And Dan Gilbert, of course, making up words. Lou Earn. I was a little disappointed you didn't use that in your headline today.
I'm sorry, I did not. But I disagree with Joe, actually. He said that he's not necessarily that concerned. I am from the standpoint of this. When you're in a tight game, you revert back to like who you are at your core. That's just the truth. And who the Cavs are, a group of really, really talented individuals that like to attack that way. Golden State at their core is a team. They share the ball. Their system runs very smooth. They help each other. They work as a team. If you think back to their win against Philadelphia, the game-winning shot by Harrison Barnes. It was Steph Curry to Draymond Green to Harrison Barnes, wide open three. That's teamwork. San Antonio, when they're in a tight game, they play as a team. At their core, it's all about their system. It's all about togetherness. For the Cavs, it still is all about individual talents just going at guys one-on-one. And it worked against Indiana. Kyrie was dazzling in overtime, and LeBron was terrific in overtime. But if you're going to win a championship, man, you have to play the way that Golden State and San Antonio play. You're going to have half-court execute better than some of those teams, and I'm just not convinced that the Cavs can do that right now.
And it's hard to change habits. I mean, LeBron has been playing this way since 2004. It's not like he just started playing this way, last year.
That's exactly right. He's
been playing that ISO ball his entire career, and it's hard to change that
Kyrie.
habit. Yeah, exactly.
Same with Kyrie. It's kind of like, Dan, a running quarterback in the NFL. It's the first instinct when pressure comes on that quarterback. All right, I'm going to make something happen with my legs because I've made something happen with my legs in high school. I made something happen with my legs in college. It's so hard to take a running quarterback and tell that guy, hey, man, you got to win from the pocket. It's the same thing with Kyrie and LeBron, and I think to some degree J.R. Smith as well. They all want to attack one-on-one because they're so talented. And they've had so much success throughout their career doing that sort of thing. But the playoffs is a completely different animal, man.
All right, let's go ahead and talk some Ohio State football now. Signing day was yesterday. Let's bring in part of our Ohio State reporting team, Bill Landis, joining us. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing well, Bill. And, let's just look at this class overall. We know it's ranked highly nationally, but among Urban Meyer classes since he's arrived at Ohio State, Is this class near the top of that list?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you go by. The 2013 class is kind of the benchmark in terms of the impact it had on the program. Obviously, set the stage for that national championship. But when you look at the ratings, and 24/7 does the composite ratings where it takes all the stars together and things like that, this is the highest rated class that Urban Meyer has had at Ohio State. For whatever it's worth, the rating is like 91, and the 2013 class rating was 89. So if you want to look at it that way and then fudge the numbers in that way a little bit, this is the best class, at least on paper, that Urban Meyer has had in his tenure at Ohio State.
Bill, I remember a number of years ago when Jim Tressel was here, the standout guy of the recruiting class was Terrell Pryor, and every single recruiting class has that standout guy. Who is it for this year's class for Urban?
It's probably Nick Bosa. He's the only five-star kid in the class. Urban Meyer called him an automatic or not a starter, but an automatic player on the defensive line next season. I think it's important to remember that he's coming off an ACL tear, so it's possible that he's not ready for the start of the season. But when you're looking at college football-ready talent with the body and just sort of been groomed for college football for the last 10 years of his life, it's Nick Bosa.
Who's your favorite recruit in this class?
Ooh, man. I like Demario McCall, the kid from Northeast Ohio, from North Bridgeville. I think we've been waiting for sort of the prototypical version of Urban Meyer's H-back, and I don't think we've seen that for whatever reason in Urban Meyer's first 4 seasons. But Demario McCall looks like the perfect guy for that. I think we say that every year about somebody. But Demario McCall, with just his speed, his running ability, and he can catch the ball a little bit too, I think he's like, He might be the best guy Urban Meyer's brought in so far to play that position. So if I had to pick one who would be most intriguing or my favorite, I'd like to see what he does at that spot.
Bill, taking Ohio State out of the equation and taking Michigan out of the equation, who had a really good recruiting class, when it comes to the Big Ten, what is it that you think some of these other teams are not doing to recruit at the level of Ohio State or this year Michigan?
Winning. It's that simple. Yeah, I mean, that's probably first and foremost. And I think that even you cannot have a super successful program. I mean, only one team can win the championship every year. But programs like Ohio State and Michigan are pretty good at having a buzz around them, if that makes sense, even if they aren't winning the title. And a lot of these other programs in the Big Ten, almost every other program in the Big Ten doesn't have it. Penn State had it for a while when James Franklin first got hired, and then they won 8 games or 7 games, whatever it was, in his first 2 years. And they sort of lost that luster a little bit and lost some recruits because of that. Michigan State is trying to sort of get that consistent buzz around its program, and it's been really good on the field in terms of results, but they still can't maximize that into a top 10 national recruiting class. So I think it's just trying to find a way to make these programs interesting, even when they're not necessarily winning the games you'd like them to win. And I think some of the coaches around the conferences are struggling to do that. With that said, I think Maryland and then Rutgers made some pretty good hires with some dynamic guys, and Chris Ash at Rutgers, and the old defensive coordinator from Michigan, DJ Durkin, is now the head coach of Maryland. I think those are 2 kind of dynamic guys who maybe turn those programs around.
Bill, 2016 signing day. It's yesterday, so it's time to start looking ahead. 2017. Yeah. Who do you think is the top target right now for Ohio State, or just a name or 2 to watch?
A name or 2 to watch for Ohio State for 2017. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. The thing with Ohio State is they have 10 guys already committed for 2017, and we don't know. Like, they're such a young team that I don't know how many more guys are actually going to be able to add for 2017. Obviously, it's not going to be a 10-man class, but there's a lot of guys out there who Ohio State still has their eye on. Just in terms of who they have coming in already, though, they have the number 1 ranked recruiting class for 2017 already. I know it's super early to talk about that, but they have Josh Myers, who's a massive offensive lineman, who's the number 3 prospect in the country. He's a 5-star. They have another 5-star, Sean Wade, who is a 5-star cornerback from Florida. So they're already putting together a pretty good 2017 class. In terms of who they like to add after that, I'm not quite sure. But they have a pretty solid foundation now with what they have committed already.
Bill, so much about college football, NFL, just football in general, is about the quarterback. Haskins comes in. Urban seemed to rave about him yesterday. How, if at all, does that impact a guy like Torrance Gibson, who's on the roster right now, or even somebody like Danny Clark, who has been committed to Ohio State for a long time?
Yeah, it's really shocking to me that they're able to just keep rattling off these quarterbacks coming in. You would think that the kids might want to go elsewhere where there's less competition, but I think it's expected somewhat that like guys are going to be recruited at your position. As far as it affects Torrance Gibson, I'm not sure. I don't know how realistic it is if he's actually going to play quarterback. I think he's pretty set at receiver. Okay. But they have Joe Burrow, who came in last year too, who's supposed to be the number 2 quarterback. So I think it just creates competition. I don't think Urban Meyer would recruit guys who are of the mindset that they would get upset when someone gets recruited at their position. But it's going to create battles. Last year's quarterback battle was so intriguing and at times sort of an issue for Ohio State. And it seems they have a loaded quarterback room, and a battle like that is going to happen every year for the foreseeable future.
Bill, last question. When you look at Michigan, of course, they had that big event yesterday on signing day. Right now, after Jim Harbaugh's second class, how close is Michigan to Ohio State?
That was really impressive what they did yesterday. I mean, not only the event was cool, and I would have liked to have been at that, but the class they signed was really a solid class. So I think you're seeing it probably takes a year or two before you can say they're on the same level as Ohio State. But you have to remember too that Brady Hoke, for all the struggles he had, recruited really well. Yep. So Harbaugh has those guys he's trying to mix in, and then he's bringing in his new guys. So I think the talent gap has closed considerably in a pretty short amount of time.
All right, thanks for the time, Bill.
Thanks.
All right, now it's time to ask Bud Shaw what he has learned recently.
I was not recruited at all out of high school, any sport or by any journalism school.
Not even a 2-star, Bud?
Not even.
Oh, come on. I wonder what the scouting report would have been for Bud Shaw.
Obviously didn't know what they were doing.
Leads need a little bit of work.
We're going to talk about that later. All right, since we last met a week ago, Brown's VP of Football Operations, Sashi Brown, made public the team's dissatisfaction with Johnny Manziel and said you can expect the organization to take action on his status once the rules allow. We believe that will be March now. That's when the Browns will have the salary cap room to take a $4 million hit. Mary Kay Cabot's story on Brown's statement elicited over 8,000 comments. That suggests maybe that the Browns' decision to cut a third-year quarterback who showed improvement on the field is a contentious one. I mean, why announce your plans to cut him? So you're sure to get nothing in return? I couldn't wait to read the pros and con arguments on cleveland.com. I imagined a hot debate, and that's exactly what I found. Bicycle Buckeye says, quote, just watch the first installment of the OJ series on FX. And 2 thumbs up, he says you'll love John Travolta. That's not exactly what I had in mind. I mean, this is a quarterback, after all, whose arrival 2 years ago had the whole town buzzing. People in Texas told Channel 3 back then that we would name streets after him, not just streets. You'll name the lake after him, the school's play-by-play man said. And I assume they knew that Cleveland was next to Lake Erie and not Lake Woebegone. Somebody around here has to feel that Sashi Brown is selling Manziel short, right? That a kid who comes from a successful family would have the support system to get it together, given one more chance, and turn his career around. Somebody must still believe that could happen in Cleveland and not in Dallas, right? Well, JCS Person clarifies the family roots by saying his mother was born in Delaware. But hold on, he's talking about Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz, not Manziel. Didn't Manziel throw for 380 yards against Pittsburgh? I mean, wasn't that just a loss away from beating a better team? The only thing that stopped that from being a drop-the-mic performance? Isn't there more of that talent to mine? More reason to think Manziel one day might be celebrated here? Buckeyes and Browns says wait till March 9th and we'll crash cleveland.com with over 14,000 posts celebrating Manziel being cut. I figure that's what, 1 for every story that we wrote about him here? I give up. I guess it's unanimous. I'm with the next commenter who asks, where have all the Johnny fans gone? To which Tax says they're on eBay trying to sell their jerseys. To which Sick One replies, they're in hiding until we draft the next Colt McCoy. And on that note, this is pretty dramatic, Chris. Pay attention. I'll drop the mic for you. Guys?
What do you think a Johnny jersey's going for right now on eBay?
Oh, man. Are you kidding
Then
me?
you got to have the new style and the old style.
Right. I bet someone in Texas, I guarantee someone in Texas is thinking right now, this is finally my break. I can finally get my Johnny Manziel jersey for cheap, $15.
Chris, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You have a highly acclaimed radio show.
Thanks.
Your openings leave a little to be desired.
That is true.
Have you
Shots
heard
fired.
a defense of Manziel during this past week?
No, not during this past week, because the thing that the Johnny supporters always went to, they always leaned on when comparing Johnny to Josh Gordon and Greg Hardy and some of these other knuckleheads that you see in the NFL, they always went to, well, the law has never gotten involved. He's never done anything illegal. Well, when you have a police department searching for you with a helicopter because there's some kind of incident that they want more explanation to, the law's involved, they don't really have that anymore to lean on.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the great scene from Stripes when Bill Murray and Harold Ramis go to the recruiting office and they're filling out the paper and the guy says, "Have you ever been convicted of a crime?" And they go, "Convicted? No, never convicted." That's what I feel like when I'm talking to Johnny's defenders. They're like,
Right.
well, he hasn't done anything that's gotten him
Right.
arrested yet.
That's exactly
well,
right.
that's a really low bar.
And that is what every email you get in response to anything you write about Johnny Manziel says. And then it's usually tagged with so-and-so, Texas.
Right,
I
exactly.
still love him there.
You know, guys, what I found very interesting, Mike Freeman from Bleacher Report tweeted quotes from two separate GMs.
Yeah.
First one said, Johnny will have to go to the Arena League for a year to rebuild his reputation and find a place. The other one said, he'll be claimed immediately. So by another GM,
Polarizing,
another
yeah.
quote. I mean, it's still, the discussion on this guy is still totally polarized, I
Right.
think.
I mean, Arena League. Does Dan Gilbert still own the Gladiators?
Oh,
I'm going to throw it out there.
Oh,
Just going
great.
to throw it out there.
Great idea.
All right, that'll do it for Sports Insider. Thanks to Mary Kay Cabot,
Oh, man.
Joe Vardon, and Bill Landis for joining us. Of course, thanks to Bud Shaw as well for unearthing the best comments that he could find on Johnny Manziel. For Chris Fedor, I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching. Do it, Dan. Go get him.